staying in the theme of some of these, whether it's in season, but it's still going to be a couple weeks of a soft tissue injury, a lot of times these are just very, very good opportunities to fill in the blanks that you didn't fill in the off season by hook or by crook. If there's a significant mobility limitations, usually that you see something like that in the ankle, you could take one approach and be like, well, how did somebody not attack this in the off season? How were they doing certain things? Well, they were doing it compensated, and that's why they had this, well, it's hard to say that's why they had this issue, but you could say this was likely a contributing factor, and even that's too grand of a statement. The fact is that when you have time to sit out and you don't have to dedicate this significant volume to your technical and tactical preparation, you can go back and fill in some of these things. And it's a little bit of, I guess, a psychological form of rehabilitation, where when this individual is very disappointed that they're out and their body just isn't going to give them, what they need to play. Hey, one of these things that we can get better from here is really filling in the blanks that you are either impossible or not efficient to work on when you are dedicating a normal work week to gameplay, full speed preparation. But also, those blanks can be really meaningful. And of course, yes, it's always disappointing when somebody really is dealing with those types of things. But one way to look at the rehab process is you have all this time to get better at other things. I know sometimes it's interesting because it's not a big part of what I talk about, or at least the people that I work with. But some of the absolute best stories that I could tell is through training, young high school aged females after ACL or some type of significant lower body injury. I have talked about this before, so this would probably be between 08, 09, 07, 08, 09, where I was working in New Jersey, and I had the satellite facilities for Central State. And it was just a really, really significantly awesome mousetrap where I had this really cool place to cultivate how I think and how I do things. And because it was a hospital, but then having basically a sports performance facility where it was all physical therapy using insurance, where they're able to bill more because it's a core certified, outpatient rehab facility. It was really a good setup, and it was very disappointing that they could not see the ideal nature of how you could blow this up. That was really maybe where you see a lot of today, these facilities that look like gyms and look like sports performance. We were one of the first to do that well over 15 years ago. So getting back to those exciting stories, and a lot of it was ACLs, where it's going to be this really, really long term. What's the gap you fill in? These were young women who would never have gotten into strength training, resistance training, etc., where they now had this opportunity to do that. Because even in my approach and the way I was thinking at that time, there's only so much you're going to do with your knee and your leg. And there's no reason to not do a lot of these other things. I find it odd, ranging from odd in a very politically correct thing to absolutely laughable and ridiculous, if I'm going to be Charlie from 2013. What in the world are you doing for 2 hours straight? Whether you're taking all this rest, or I don't even know, like just all these nonsensical exercises that you think are doing something when they're so sub-stimulative. This is a waste of time. Let's take that same 2 hours. Let's pick some of our basic stuff for the knee or whatever the soft tissue issue might be, and then let's train. And I didn't have this EPP approach, but we would get into, because now remember, if insurance is paying very well, you're getting to see people 3 times a week. And next thing you know, we had young ladies, I remember one of them, single leg unsupported squat, leg hanging off the side, whatever you want to call that, ass to grass, like literally full flexion with 17 and a half times 2, 1 in each hand, so total of 35 pounds. It was unbelievable. Obviously, one name who I would drop is, I believe she's the top ranked 1 or 2 in whether it's USAPL, I don't even know these other federations where they're, the referees in powerlifting wear suits, that Kate Cohen is basically one of the best powerlifters on earth, and she started, in that program with her ACL, that's where she learned how to lift. At her wedding, I reminded everyone that her mom would probably blame me for her course of of growth in powerlifting, and we had a good time with that during my speech. But my point is that if not for the ACL and shaping the rehab, you have a lot of opportunities to fill in these gaps. And we're not lifting so Kate Cohen could be a power lifter. We lifted because it was the right thing overall to then have the best level of rehabilitation and the best opportunity to have minimal recurrence of any type of issue. Why would you not do these things? And again, maybe the divide is that I don't know how to just keep throwing a bunch of stupid exercises at somebody over and over and over again. What I do know is to do what's useful at a very, very high level of stimulation for this isolated area. And then we build out and we train the whole body, and you can build out a monthly or weekly training cycle. That I know how to do. So it's all right, fine. Your way is better. You win. My point is you're not winning because these are people who are completely understimulated. They are very, very weak. They're not strong. They're not fast, and they're done. This is like 1983 when you have an ACL and you had a bad knee injury and your career is over. So when you looked at some of the more recent things that we were doing, when you have a calf, okay, yeah, I do think that when you have this significant drop step, whether that's how you're starting your acceleration, or you do like a plyo step, a false step, which is certainly something that a lot of people talk about. I'm in the camp that this is not a big deal, but I don't think you always have to do it. But if you're a little bit underwater and you're a large human being, the physics of a short dorsiflexion while you're taking a step back, that's going to lead to calf and Achilles issues. It's physics. If you're robust and solid enough and you have enough ways to disperse the force through dorsiflexion, no big deal. Let's fill in the gap. Hey, you're not playing for a little bit? Let's stretch the holy hell out of this ankle. Let's mobilize. Let's get on the navicular. Let's get on the cuboid. Let's get on the cuneiforms. Let's find every opportunity to get tibial rotation as you dive into some of this dorsiflexion. And that in itself may not directly impact tissue healing in the acute stages, but it gives you this opportunity to work on something that you could probably suggest that you should have been working on before. Fill in the gaps during rehab. And all of a sudden, you're not just rehabbing, you're doing all of these things that you didn't do before, so you can come out on the other side in this much more efficient result, much more efficient state.